Hello, Melton Guy, and I'm taking another look at things with which we're all familiar. But I got to keep hitting, got to keep talking, which is what we all must do in these critical times. And they are indeed critical times. Whether we want to acknowledge it or not, we're living in a critical time. The gaslighting that goes on, that when one person is absolutely a danger to our democracy, and their main theme in their campaign is to point to the other guy as a danger to our democracy, and we know it's not the case. Again, we may not acknowledge it, but we know it to be true. Shake your head yes, shake your head no. When will you look at the evidence? And I realize that I'm preaching to the choir, probably. But I'm asking you, if you're part of that choir, share this and other sites where we talk about the issues that are apparent to most of us, but not so to many, or just denied by many. We don't have to decide which it is. We just have to keep talking about it. Now, I'm going to say some things today that might make you think that I'm giving up, that I'm not going to talk about these no more. That's not the case. There will be more of these. I will not stop talking about these issues. I will not stop talking about the danger this country faces. The danger being existence or no existence. That's what it's down to. We will exist or we will not exist by this time next year. Now, I'm willing to compromise, as I think many of us are. But I'm throwing this out to you who do not agree, who want to not see, not to share with others the truth that you have witnessed, but rather you want to stay in that gang, that cult, that for many of us seems you're trying to tear this country apart, that you do not want this country to survive. And as I said, I'm willing to compromise, and here's the kind of things I'm talking about. I'm willing to compromise, and I'm asking, are you? I'll make a deal. And I mean this. I'll stop the talk of critical race theory, woke, and I'll stand against any subject that might teach our children the ugly truths of our history. I really will. I really will. And I think others will go along with me if you will oppose any use of the Confederate flags at events, political rallies, and speeches, and school events, and so on, because, as you know, that flag has a history, ugly history, that might remind us of what great assholes we were and we are. Now, there are other compromises out there to be made, but the point I'm making here is, do not tell me that you do not want our children or whomever to know the truth about our past and about our coming into being. So therefore, let's ban these books. Let's not talk about these subjects. And then at the same time, wave your Confederate flag around, because it has a history too. And sometime on some day, those children, those adults, whoever is looking at this thing only on one side, are going to ask, give me the history. Can you tell me the history of the Confederate flag. Now, I'm not talking about the Confederate flag. I'm not talking about this as a single issue. That's not what I'm talking about today. I'm talking about coming to a place where we can find some ground where we can compromise. No, I do not want to stop talking about critical race theory. I think our children should know everything about us, about our past, and what we did and how we got to her, the goodness and the greatness and the sadness and the cruelty and the ugliness. For the most part, what we are and what we're going to be has nothing to do with where we came from, in the sense that it's going to stop us from becoming a great nation. However, knowing the truth is the starting point. Our children should know where we came from. They should know their history. If they are an American citizen, they should be able to know where we came from. And if they surely, and I'm just remembering my childhood, I was not going to go out on my own and find out. Teachers were expected to teach our children history. But that's, like I said, that's an aside. The Confederate flag, critical race theory, woke, pretty much boils down to silliness when you realize that we're fighting a battle trying to avoid something. When I say we, you know who I'm talking about. Trying to avoid something that we think is not right, or goes against us, or makes us look bad. But on the other hand, raise up something that has such a cruel, cruel history and be proud of it. Now, forgetting that, the words credibility, integrity, honesty, these have become obsolete, I'm afraid. And what is it that has become normal? There are children now that do not know what a working House of Representatives is all about. Look at the absolute mess that the House of Representatives is causing and they do it every day. I do not have the words to describe what's going on in this country and in our government. The only word I can think of is ineffable, which means it's just so extreme, too extreme to be described, or it's just beyond expression. Our mouths are remaining open all the time, just wondering, what? What did he say? What did she say? What did they do? Ineffable. Remember that word. Because I would like to know a word that describes what is going on in the MAGA Republican Party today and with Donald Trump. I know Democrats and independents and other affiliations who have had their moments of struggling with these long cherished ideals of credibility and integrity and honesty. I knew them 30 years ago. I know them today, and I'll know them tomorrow. But that's my point. We can't think of a word that describes the vulgarity, the absolute horror that is taking place in the MAGA Republican House of Representatives and Senate. And the front runner is the king of the cult. But I say all that, but I want to lead into this. The Trumps, the MAGA cult, and the judicial system, which sits and cowers from the top to the lesser courts at the whisper of the name of Donald J. Trump. They should be ashamed. All of the aforementioned have given these long cherished ideals evil, just evil of the worst kind, evil connotations. Those words, credibility, integrity, and honesty, have been gaslighted themselves to the point that they are evil connotation as it comes out of the mouth, especially of the House of Representatives and Donald J. Trump. Now, I could go on and listing the bizarre people and bizarre descriptive actions resulting in the misreading or ignoring of the United States Constitution without explanation or apology. You've seen it as much as I have, yet you won't deny it. And again, I want to point out when I say you, I am speaking to the MAGA crowd and to Donald J. Trump and all those who want to support these people, this cult. And that's why I say that if I'm preaching to the choir, please share this idea, these ideas. What I'm getting to is this. I still want to believe this will all be over one day. I like to think that one day I'll wake up and it's all a dream. That this never happened. That there never was a MAGA cult that took over our House of Representatives. There never was a man who has been promoted to the office of God or the Orange Jesus or the new Messiah. I want to wake up and find out that was all a dream. I'm not going to, but I do dream about that dream. And the questions that we face today and the actions that we see and what we want to happen in the election of 2024, the questions change and should change. They will not be questions so much involving Trump and his allies and his cult and the MAGA group. The question is coming. Me believing that this will all be over one day. The question is, how will we welcome them back? If we want a semblance of what this country was before 2016, and it was never great, but let me explain. It was never great. We were always working on it. Sometimes we'd take a step forward and 2 steps backwards, but we'd always start moving forward again. But that hasn't been the case. I want to tell you a love story of romance, of the little things we took for granted, the love of tradition. And I want to talk about these things, and I want to remember them, and then I want to live them without a knot in the pit of my stomach. And I want you to live without that knot in the pit of your stomach. That is not life. That is not progress. But let me tell you a simple love story. Back in the year 1969, I started going to school at a junior college, and the bus picked me up at my home. I got on that bus one day, and I didn't see anyone in particular because I was pretty much one of the last few to get on the bus. I didn't notice anybody. But anyway, we went to the junior college. At day's end, I went and got on the bus. I was the first one on the bus. And as I was sitting there, this beautiful young lady walked in. And I was sitting next to a good friend of mine. And keep in mind, I'd never met this girl. But keep in mind that I told my friend that day, I said to him, "You see that girl out there?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm going to marry her. I don't know when, but I'm going to marry her." And it ended up, that's exactly what I did. We fell in love and we never looked back. And do you know our 50th anniversary, I sang to her, I sang the group from about late 1950s and 60s, the Platters, their song, "Only You." Now, I'm not a great singer. Matter of fact, I'm way on the other end of the spectrum as far as singing. But as I sang that song to her, with other family members around, and as I sang it to her, I looked into her face and her eyes, and she was looking at me like I was proposing to her for the first time. And she thought this was the greatest thing ever, and I could just see the woman on our 50th wedding anniversary with whom I fell in love in 1969. You know, we did all the things that most married couples do, and I want you to think about this, what you do as a married couple. Just think about the first cup of coffee in the morning, you sit there together. You may not say a whole lot, but you know you'd rather be no other place than ain't sitting there with your partner and lover, having that first cup of coffee. And I want you to think about all these things that apply to you. Your walks together, strolling, maybe not holding hands, because as we all grow too, sometimes we do and sometimes we don't, but we were walking together. We were having a great time because we did it together. Never running out of a single thing to say. May not speak for a minute or two, but there's always something coming up. We're always talking. And you were too. And that's what I want you to do. Remember that. Remember those times. Remember the children as they came along, your children. If you're a church goer, remember getting those children ready for church and you all going to church together and then coming home for Sunday dinner. And then grandchildren. All the happy days you have with your grandchildren at Christmas and Easter and Thanksgiving. Remember the barbecues you've had here, there, and other places with family, having a good time, telling jokes, laughing, and cutting up. Remember the vacations you took together, maybe with friends, maybe with other relatives. But you were having a good time. You could go out and do that, and you could do it all without a knot in the pit of your stomach. worried only about taxes at times worried only about getting your children to school on time, worrying about what's for supper. And then you think back to that wonderful, wonderful time of drinking that first cup of coffee together in the morning. So I'm simply asking, can we, and how will we welcome those who want to come back, to bring this nation together again? I hope soon we all can sit down and have a cup of coffee together. And you know what it's called, what I'm talking about? Normalcy. Plain old normalcy. Whatever that means to you and yours. It's something to think about. Do you want that normalcy? Then you know what we have to do. Maybe you might want to share my video with some friends or others. Like I say, I realize most of the time I'm preaching to the choir, and I need you to share my video, but not just mine. There are also others like Tennessee Brando and Owen Morgan and Texas Paul and others out there that are concerned and they want that normalcy. And I insist that you at least check them out. They deserve it. Not only these men and other men and women, there's wisdom out there to be found. So just check them out. Because all of these that I've mentioned, they're doing like I'm doing. They're preaching to the choir most of the time. And we need that choir to share. I want to mention my book that's out on Amazon now, the title of which is The Offspring of Ignorance. Give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And if you have the mind to do so, subscribe to not only what I've done, but these other that I mentioned. Give it a thought. I hope I've given you something to, at the very least, think about today. God bless us all.